Okay, let's unpack this. So we are diving deep into a surprisingly intense piece of philosophical reflection today.
It really is.
Our source is a 1979 address called Let Us Think, and it was delivered by Reverend Sun Myung Moon. And our mission here is, well, it's pretty pure. We just want to extract the core philosophical criteria for what this address calls noble thought.
And by extension, a righteous life.
Exactly.
And it's a fascinating challenge because this material, it isn't satisfied with, superficial self-help. It gives you these highly specific, sometimes bizarre analogies to judge your own internal world.
From the flight path of a crane to the design of the human nose, yeah.
And it all comes down to this one ultimate test, the inspection of your invisible thought bag.
Right. The whole address is like this aggressive spiritual audit. It's asking you, the listener, are your thoughts focused on these huge, divine, noble concerns, or are you just wasting bandwidth on cheap, everyday, earthly things?
It demands that your thinking has to do something. It has to actively propel you toward a noble existence.
Okay, so let's start with how it sets that up, this logic of goals and striving.
It immediately establishes the sheer scale of the vision required, and it uses nature as a kind of measuring stick.
The tree.
The tree. The speaker imagines that if a truly great 1,000-year-old tree could reason, it wouldn't boast.
Why not?
Because if its goal is to cover the entire earth and touch the sky, it would still only be thinking about how much more it needs to grow.
So the takeaway isn't really the tree itself, it's the principle. The quality of your thought is completely determined by the sheer scale of your goal. You have to keep that long-distance view.
And that perspective, it dictates your movement. Which brings us to the crane.
The crane.
The source describes it as the bird that flies highest.
Yeah.
And unlike a sparrow, which, just hops around sporadically.
The crane moves with these long, stately strides.
Exactly, because its vision is geared for the long haul, crossing continents, crossing oceans. It's always looking up, always looking ahead. It never droops its neck.
And this is where the material gets really specific with its philosophical lens. The speaker points out the crane's colors.
Right. It has that red patch on its head, almost like a cap, and then the black feathers in its tail.
And the address gives this a really surprising meaning. It argues that while red often symbolizes communism and black symbolizes Satan, because the crane is flying white over this conquering ocean.
Those elements are restored.
They're harmonized, they're brought under a higher conquering purpose. It suggests that truly noble thought doesn't just eliminate opposing elements.
It subordinates them. It integrates them into a larger, pure mission.
Which kind of begs the question of culture, right? The address then brings up the ox.
Calling it the most thinking animal next to man.
And the argument is, if oxen were actually thinking nobler thoughts than us, then they would have created their own sophisticated culture.
I mean, with colorful clothes and special toilets and bathtubs.
Because the philosophy here is that pure, noble thought. That's the precursor to actual tangible culture and nobility.
The source says it plainly. Thinking makes things happen.
So if you want a noble life, your inner world, your thoughts, have to be on the side of this universal goodness.
Okay, so let's define that goodness.
According to the source, it has one key quality.
Yeah.
Universality. It's something everyone intrinsically likes.
God and man, old and young. It even pushes that boundary, saying...
Right, saying even the most devilish grandmother and wicked, purposeless young people would recognize and appreciate it.
And this universality, it drives a very competitive environment. At least that's how it's framed here, for divine attention.
Yeah, he suggests God raised up all the different religions specifically to compete, to see who loves him the most.
So the goal for you, the listener, is to aim to be number one, to love God so fiercely that you can actually claim God.
Or even bind God with your love, making him your willing prisoner.
Which leads to this radical point, this reward. If you love God so much that he finally admits you're doing enough,
then you earn the freedom to, and I'm quoting here, take a nap or go disco dancing for 24 hours a day.
And think like an ox or a pig. It seems like such a contradiction.
Well, is it? Or is it just underscoring the finality of the victory? It's like once God himself says the mission is accomplished, only then do you earn the freedom to be mentally idle.
It just sets an unbelievably high bar for what completion even means.
Which brings us to that core metaphor you mentioned earlier.
It's a thought bag.
Right. This invisible container that goes everywhere with you, holding all of your thoughts.
And if you think a great deal, the bag gets huge. So big and so light, the source says, it could actually lift you off the ground.
The inspection of this bag, that is the absolute test.
It's the true confession of what you think.
Yeah.
So, what's inside? Is it a ragged mixture, like a garbage truck?
Or is it genuine gold and beautiful crystal, full of fragrance and color? It forces this radical transparency on you.
But this is where it gets tricky. The mandate for dedication clashes right up against the requirement for humility.
How so?
Well, the audience is asked to rate their own dedication before God. Are you at 100%? 50? 0?
And then comes the warning.
An immediate, sharp warning. Anyone who rates themselves at 100% has something wrong with your head.
So that's the friction. You're commanded to push for perfection, but you can only receive grace and blessing if you are humble enough to feel unworthy.
Exactly. It's not about earning credit. It's about having the meekness that opens you up to receive the blessing in the first place.
Okay, so if our internal world has to be that orderly, full of gold and crystal, then it follows that the Creator's world reflects an even greater logic,
And this leads the address to describe God as the master scientist.
proving his existence through these incredible, precise design details in creation.
It really forces you to zoom in on the mundane and see the grace involved. I mean, the two eyes are placed specifically to watch over the mouth.
Or the mouth having these little valleys on either side, so when you sweat, it doesn't run directly in.
And just the simple convenience of a downward-facing nose. Imagine a rainy day if your nose was upside down.
Or the placement of hair inside the nose. Every single detail is logical. God's thinking isn't random. It all exists through this ordered law.
And that order provides the ultimate standard for truth and goodness. The thinking here is that truly good and true things, they exist forever. They're unchangeable.
Like 24-karat gold. It's the same in America or Korea. You put it in a furnace, it melts, but it's still gold.
But evil or fake things, they just vanish because they have no foundation, no root.
So the ultimate criterion for good and evil is just alignment. Do you align with that unchangeable order? Good people think as God thinks, the Alpha and Omega, and evil people oppose it.
And it's made relatable through a logic of obedience. Good students obey school policy, good employees follow company policy.
A good person tries to live up to God's ultimate policy.
Right. Now, we should probably touch on the political context of this. It's 1979, and there's a strong contrast being drawn. We're just, reporting on the viewpoints in the address itself.
Of course. The argument presented is that the communist world is defined by being told what to do at gunpoint.
And operating clandestinely, hidden like bats in caves.
In contrast, the address claims that God's way and democracy operate transparently in broad daylight.
And the goal is stated very explicitly to eliminate communist ideology and liberate people who are enslaved by it. That effort is equated with upholding this divine order.
Okay, let's shift gears now to one of the most striking parts of the address, the discussion on race and color.
It's presented as this deep exploration of contrast and harmony in creation. It's much more than just aesthetics.
How so?
Well, again, it uses natural analogies. The high mountaintop is white and often sterile, covered in snow. But the valley soil is dark and fertile. That's where the richness is.
So black is described as a very rich color, which has depth and absorbs all light.
While white, on the other hand, reveals every single deficiency. It's easily stained.
So the philosophy suggests that black offers a kind of inherent dignity or covering,
Yeah.
where white is totally exposed.
And this tension creates what he calls dramatic beauty. He points to the contrast of white teeth against black skin as an example.
Or how great art uses dark backgrounds to provide depth to make the foreground vivid.
Even with food, the source notes that dark sugar has more flavor than white sugar. So this richness, this depth, it's central to the beauty of creation.
And the same logic of contrast gets applied to eye color.
Yeah, he suggests God gave blue eyes to white people because a plain white face would get tiresome. The blue dots provide a comforting contrast, like the sky or the ocean.
And this culminates in a very specific aesthetic claim.
The most dramatic combination in the Western world. White skin, black hair and eyebrows, blue eyes, and white eyeballs.
And the source suggests this ultimate beauty requires a mixing of the white, black, or yellow races.
But the section concludes with a very important instruction for the listener.
Whites be proud, blacks be proud, Orientals be proud.
The mandate is to take what you have and be proud of it, because your dignity and purpose are inherent in your design.
Okay, here's where it gets, for me, really interesting. The ultimate revelation of God's character.
This is the core of the philosophy, really. The speaker argues that God's true qualification isn't that he created everything.
It's that he has the heart to exist solely for what he created.
That's a profound shift. God is measured not by his power, but by his relentless, selfless dedication.
The analogy he uses is a true teacher. A true teacher wouldn't just teach for a salary. He'd sell his own coat to pay for a pupil's tuition because he lives for his pupils.
And a real parent lives solely for the children, so God exists for us.
Which immediately sets the mandatory life philosophy for the listener. You have to mirror that.
You have to live for the sake of the home, the nation, the world, and God. It's the only acceptable philosophy presented here.
And anything less is selfish. This even defines what a good war is.
Fighting solely for the sake of God's way of life and truth, never for selfish benefit.
And this final philosophical point, it reiterates this idea of a mutual relationship. We know God is an absolute necessity for us.
And the goal is to become an absolute necessity for God, a partner he literally can't do without.
To get to that status, you have to be totally immunized to evil. So that ridicule, temptation, distraction, none of it has any effect on you.
You have to be able to declare that you're God's representative on earth, and God wouldn't be ashamed to follow your lead.
It's an incredible standard.
And the address ends with this dramatic, almost playful challenge. It notes that Jesus' name in Korean, Yesu, sounds like the word yes.
So he's the great affirmation, the cosmic yes man to God.
And the challenge is for the listeners to shout out a louder yes to God's will, pledging that the world shall be liberated by me with God, and then you get into action.
So after all that, what does this all mean? We have this philosophy of relentless, high-level thinking, always aiming to, cross continents and touch the sky.
We have the radical transparency required by the inspection of your thought bag. You have to know if it contains garbage or gold.
And finally, this ultimate definition of goodness, existing solely for the benefit of the whole, mirroring the Creator's own heart.
Right. And the source defines the noble person not by their external achievements, but by the quality of their internal life. By their willingness to endure intense discomfort like sitting on hard concrete floors at 6 a.m. out of sheer dedication.
So, given the enormous emphasis on achieving a pure heart, requiring 100% dedication, but that simultaneous absolute warning that anyone claiming 100% confidence has something wrong with your head.
The ultimate question for you, the learner, is this. What is the perfect score for the honest thinker?
How do you reconcile that maximal dedication with the necessary humility to actually complete the mission?